Everybody, and welcome to our latest workshop. Today, this is a new one for me. We are doing microgreens, or how to grow your microgreens and sprouts at home. I am brand new to microgreens. Something I've just been reading up on a little bit recently, and I thought I'd give it a go. It took the seeds a little while to get here, so I've only just sort of put them in. Ideally, I would have liked to have had some microgreens ready for harvesting for you this morning, but obviously you've all seen how busy I've been this week.
Bring them on camera?
No.
She will.
No.
Oh.
So I've been a bit busy and I didn't get them in as early as I would have liked, but I have got 4 different types of microgreens to show you today. And it's been really good. I have made pretty much every mistake in the book in the last few days with these microgreens, and I've still been able to save them. So they are a really, really simple thing to do, and so far they seem to be really forgiving when you do make some mistakes. I would think that the only mistake they probably wouldn't forgive you for would be underwatering, but I've certainly, like with everything here at the moment, everything is getting overwatered. But I was able to correct that. So microgreens are sort of really coming into their own at the moment. In years gone by, they've just been something that you've seen on, in high-end restaurants as just a garnish and things like that. But obviously mainstream have picked it up a bit, scientific world have picked it up a bit, and there's now a lot of studies being done on the benefits of microgreens. Early studies are showing that your microgreens can have up to 40% higher nutritional value than their full-grown counterpart. Whether that stays that high once more studies are being done, I guess only time will tell. But certainly the research that I've done, they are saying that the early stuff is saying up to 40% higher. Instead of having to, eat a big bit of broccoli, you could probably eat, some microgreens. And that's going to get you those benefits without eating a big chunk of broccoli. For those who don't like broccoli, I personally love the stuff. And so microgreen seeds, they can be a little bit hard to come by. You don't have to buy microgreen seeds though. As a microgreen is any vegetable that you can grow normally, just in bulk, and you're only going to harvest it when it's really small instead of letting it grow into a full-size plant. The only thing is, if you were to buy, say, your broccoli in a small packet, it would cost you an insane amount of money to grow 1 tray of microgreens. So you do need to be able to buy your seed in bulk quantities. But they don't have to be specifically marketed for microgreens. I haven't come across anything yet that says you cannot eat this product as a microgreen, but there are some things that are better than others. I think pretty much anything in the brassica family is really fantastic. Broccoli, kale, your Asian greens, any of your leafy greens are really, really good because the majority of them do sprout quite fast. And obviously they do have a lot of nutritional benefits to them. So making them microgreens with all those extra benefits is obviously going to be quite better for you. What reading I've done, they recommend that you don't cook them. They're just too small. And at this early stage, they've got a lot of water content in them. So cooking them, it would be basically pretty much just non-productive. It'd be useless. So you can use them as you can just put them in your salads, in smoothies, you can put them into scrambled eggs and things like that. So pretty much sort of just as you're serving them up, you would probably put it in so they would just warm up a bit and maybe slightly wilt, but you wouldn't want to put them in. So I probably wouldn't put them in a full-blown stir fry. You could probably just put them in at the very end on the top and mix it in, and that would probably work well if you're going to do it in something like a stir fry. Like I said, I wanted to have these done a week ago. Most of the stuff I've read is that it takes about roughly 7 to 10 days from time of planting to be able to harvest. Now, I did these Wednesday lunchtime and they've come up really, really well. I've got 4 different types here. What I've got was broccoli, daikon radish, Asian greens, and kale. Now, I didn't get completely the results I thought I would get, so it's been really interesting to see what's germinated. I thought the Asian greens would be the best and the fastest, because obviously to grow them into full vegetables, that's your first crop that you can generally harvest. These have gone in the shade house here. I wouldn't recommend doing that. It got far too much water. They really don't need as much water as what they were getting in the shade house. So I actually pulled them out of the shade house yesterday and left them out here in the undercover area. Excuse me. And they've come good, because the too much water can make them go moldy. And certainly yesterday, some of them had definitely started to go moldy, but leaving them out for less than 24 hours, the mold's gone and they've really come up. So I'm going to show you what I've got here. So this is our first one, and this was the one that's had sort of been the slowest growing so far.
Sorry. I've got too much writing on the screen. Go for it.
Yeah, so this was the Asian greens. Sorry, no, my mistake. This was the kale. I probably wasn't super surprised that the kale has been the slowest to germinate, but it is quite pale still. There's not a lot of growth, and there's sort of not a very uniform germination here. But yeah, I'm still going to keep going with that one, because obviously kale's got lots of health benefits, and we'll see how we go. The next one, which was my big surprise, was the Asian greens. So these ones yesterday did not look good at all. They probably looked pretty much like the kale did. And yeah, the germination wasn't, it probably has been pretty good. I didn't have the bulk Asian green mix that I bought was only 10 grams of seed. So I didn't want to chuck the whole thing in one go. So there probably is less seed here, but I really thought I would have been further along. And the Asian greens have probably doubled in size since yesterday. And the reason why these two are still pale is when we grow them, and you'll see later on, we actually want to keep them in the dark. So that's why these ones are pale at the moment, because I did leave their lids on overnight. Next one. Can you still see me on the camera?
Pardon? No. I was just going to try and bring it up to see how I was filming.
The next one is the daikon radish. I honestly thought, the daikon would be, probably just behind the microgreens, but sorry, the Asian greens, which they are. But as you can see, there's a difference here in the colour. The daikon is a bit darker, a bit more greener, and that's because the germination on this one had been really good yesterday, I left the lid off. Now this one yesterday was quite mouldy, but leaving it out, it's dried out a little bit. I mean, it's still quite wet. The mould's all gone. So I'm quite happy with the daikon radish. And that germination's been pretty good. And then to the final one, which is dun dun dun, by far the best, is the broccoli. So I'm really super happy with the broccoli, because the broccoli was the main one that I wanted to do. And it is, from what I understand, it is the main one that people will use, is a broccoli. Because and these were all done at the same time, with the same conditions. They've all been planted exactly the same way. They've had the same, I would assume, the same amount of water, because they were in the same spot in the shade house. They've had, whereas this one yesterday, I left the lid off it as well, and these have really darkened up, and they're looking really good. And this is less than 3 days. I did them at lunchtime on Wednesday, so you can really see that. Excuse me. I would think that by Wednesday next week, they would absolutely be ready to harvest, to eat. So they are something super fast, and they can be done anywhere. They, like I said, I wouldn't recommend doing them in the shade house. So they can be done, and because they actually need a fair bit of darkness to germinate and sprout, you can do them on the bench at home. You don't have to have them in big trays like this. I also did some little tiny pots, the little single cell pots. I was terrified, being Wednesday, that none of this was going to germinate on time, so I tried to do it a few different ways, but just on a smaller scale. And as you can see, these little pots. So you could get your 15 centimetre pots. You could have them on. You could even use a nice pot if you don't want to have dirty things like this sitting on your kitchen bench. But yeah, so kitchen bench is perfectly fine. You might need to take them outside for the last day or two just to get that photosynthesis going, to really get your nutrients and that darkness in the leaf. But you can definitely, this is something you can do inside or on a windowsill, something you can do with the kids. They'll see an almost instant result. Like these are, some of them are very close. Some of them are actually an inch high, and that's in 3 days. So if you want to do something with the kids, microgreens are really fantastic because they will see that instant result. Now with these, I actually planted these in 2 different ways, because I remembered once I'd done all these that a lot of the videos I had watched was saying not to put soil on top of your seeds. So I did one with soil on top and one without. And the one with the soil on top has actually done a better job, but only just. Like there is maybe less than half a centimetre's difference in the growth of the tallest of the between the two methods. So it really doesn't seem to matter. These ones here all had soil put on top, and I really don't think it's been detrimental at all, which is good. Now, like I said, with the seeds, you don't have to purchase, specific seeds for sprouting. Things like your broccoli, your daikon, your Asian greens in this town, that they'll all go to seed at the end of the season. If you leave a broccoli head, and I know it's really tempting to eat the broccoli because that's obviously what you're growing it for, but if you leave one broccoli, you can get a massive amount of seeds out of that at the end of the season. So this again sort of goes to the importance of seed saving. I was able to get the daikon radish to go to seed here last year, so that is absolutely something that can be done. And we all know that Asian greens bolt to seed as soon as the weather starts to heat up. So instead of pulling them out, keep them, collect your seed. You only need, obviously your daikon, you need a fair bit of seed if you're going to grow it again next year. But for your Asian greens and your broccoli, you really only need a small amount of seed left over for next year's eating crops. But if you save all that other seed, you can then grow your own microgreens. I would like to think that we'd be able to do this in summer here, because before the heat has a chance to kill them, I think, especially if we're doing them inside and just sort of putting them out for a little bit before we harvest them, I'd like to think we would be able to get this done in summer here. So it'll be really interesting. I want to give it a go over summer as well and see if we can actually have this. So it's another thing that we can grow at home. I personally have never seen microgreens available for sale in the shops. Whether you can get them in the cities, I don't know, but certainly up here you can't. So if it's something that you want to try and eat, you have to grow them yourself. And it is, as you can see, insanely simple. I've not purchased, you can jump on eBay and you can purchase the kits. The kits are not cheap. They're plastic. Some of the videos I've watched were using coir mats that I think were reusable, but I'm not sure. They didn't specifically specify that. I couldn't even find a coir mat on eBay that wasn't your big house front door mat. So you'd probably have to get them from like a specialist microgreen shop.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
The microgreens, are they those little things that you get for the kids with the little animal porcelain type things?
I believe so.
Okay.
I think so. But I think a lot of those may just have grass in them.
Oh.
But it's the same principle. But yeah, any of those, so yeah, absolutely. It could be a great activity to do with the kids on the school holidays. And I don't know how many of you did this in primary school. I know we certainly did, where you made your grass heads, where it was just, I don't even remember what you filled. You got an old pantyhose and you filled it with
stocking.
Yeah, it was something that you feel like, it might have even just been like cotton wool or something, and you put the grass seeds in it, and then it all grew up, and then you decorated it and you had a grass head. Yeah. Well, you could absolutely, I would think, do that with your microgreens. And yeah, you could do that with the kids, and then, I don't know, the kids can eat their creation's head. It's kind of fun, kind of creepy, kind of fun, but it would be a really cool way to do some art crafts. and to do some gardening and to teach kids, you know, some really basic fundamentals of, hey, it took you a week to grow yourself a snack and you had fun doing it as well. So that could be a great activity for school holidays for the kids, or even for the homeschool families, you know, as just part of an everyday activity.
Yes.
Now I've lost my train of thought. Where was I at?
Sorry.
That's all good. Yeah, I'm not sure now. But yeah, so that's right, pricing. I have not purchased anything special for this apart from the seed, because I didn't have the quantity of seed that I wanted left over. So yeah, I used Eden seeds for these. There is a company in Western Australia that does the bulk seeds, and I can't remember who, it might have been Perth Hills, but every time I have checked, they've been sold out. Eden seeds were able to provide me with most of what I wanted, and I've certainly got a good base to start. And I think with postage, I think it cost me around $50, and it got me about 120 grams of seed, which doesn't sound like a lot, but these seeds are tiny, so it is quite a large amount of seed. But I mean, the shipping was flat rate, so you'd be able to get more and still be able to pay that same amount of shipping. But yeah, so as you can see, you know, these trays are just invaluable. I absolutely love them. If anybody needs them, you can generally get them from the nurseries or come and see me. I'm pretty sure I've got an insane amount of them. Really easy to use. Now, if you buy a kit, it won't have any holes in the bottom, so it will be slightly different. You'll have to be quite careful with drainage. So, and that's another reason why we don't overwater. But with these, all I have done is the same way I've done, we did the seedlings. So when we did the start your seedlings, I've done it exactly the same way. Oh, that's not right. So because these have got holes in the bottom, I have got a little bit of hay in there, and I reckon that might be just a little bit too much. You only need sort of enough to keep the water from and the soil from just rinsing straight through the bottom. I also like to put the hay in. It has got some goat poo in it, and it's hay, and obviously it's hay as well, you can see that. There's a bit of nutrients in it as well, and I mean, you're not keeping these in here long term, but I sort of like to give them a little bit of food anyway. So yeah, there's a little bit of the straw, the hay in the bottom there. I've got some potting mix. Now again, you know, I can't say this often enough, get the best potting mix your budget allows. That is where you do spend your money, is on your potting mix. This potting mix is the stuff that exactly the same stuff we were using for the seed workshop. And it's just, it was the potting mix I got from Home Hardware that's got the sea sole or the seaweed already added into it. And I've just got some perlite in it. Again, you know, you probably, to be honest, don't probably need perlite in it because you don't really want a lot of that water retention, but this was what I already had made up, and I wasn't going to open a full bag of potting mix just to do this tiny little bit. So if you've got any questions, everybody, make sure you're asking them. I have a camera person there that we can ask away. Alright, so what we're doing is I've just spread it out nice and evenly, try and make it somewhat flat. And just sort of pat it down a little bit. Now this is already moist, it's not wet, but it is moist. And what I'm going to use today is some rat's tail radish seeds. Now, somebody gave me these, so I've got a fair amount. Ideally, I would like a little bit more, but this is what I've got, so this is what I'm going to use. So I will use the whole amount. Oops. And what we're going to do is basically just sprinkle them around as evenly as practically possible. This actually doesn't look too bad. So yeah, you want to try and avoid them being all in one clump. You want to try and have them as spaced as you can. So at the moment they're just sitting like that. Then what we're going to do is you want the same size tray was what I've used. You can use anything, but this works really quickly. Is if you're going to do it now, I've done this the wrong way, I think. If you're going to do it where you're not putting soil on the top, you would do this now. I'm going to put a little bit of soil on top. And it's only the tiniest little sprinkling. So you sort of forget your rule of planting depth with this, because you only want them just covered. And it doesn't seem to matter if you can still just see some of them. Because yeah, you really want that coverage just really, really lightly. Now something else that you can use is the coir peat. A lot of people are using the coir peat, but this is what I had available, and you all know me, I'm more about sort of using what I've got rather than purchasing new for things where possible. And then what I'm going to do is, this is where you come with your tray, and you're just going to push down on it, because what you want is, you want the soil to have full contact with those seeds, because if they're sort of not contacting with anything, they may be slower to germinate, or they may fail to germinate at all. Whereas we've just got them with contact now, so that should hopefully speed up with some germination. Can I have that water jug, the spray bottle, please, baby? Alrighty, and then all I'm going to do is give it a light spray. Just to get it that even watering. And then what we want is, you use your second tray to act as your darkness. So that sort of acts as your soil depth, really. You pop that on, and that's it. Make sure you label it, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Is you pop it somewhere. Somewhere dark is fine, because obviously it needs the dark to germinate, so it will replicate the soil. And then just leave them. I didn't touch them again for 2 days, but obviously they were in the shade house, so they were getting watered. But realistically, all you need is a spray bottle. Doesn't have to be anything big like this, even just a little water squirty bottle that you use for the kids' hair, something that doesn't have conditioner in it. And you just want to keep it moist and damp, not soaking, because what's happened with these, like I said, they got too wet and there was mold growing, but I've been able to leave them out overnight, and it's disappeared, so that should be fine. But that's how easy growing microgreens are. And after sort of about 7 days, and I will do a quick video when I harvest them, what I've done when I've done this is I filled the tray sort of about halfway. I probably should have filled it a little bit more, because what you're going to do is, when you harvest, you want a really sharp knife or a really sharp pair of scissors, and you can just sort of cut them straight off. I believe that some will re-sprout, some will not. Obviously being my first time doing this, I don't know which ones are going to re-sprout. So I'm hoping that some of them, the Asian greens and the kale, should in theory re-sprout again, because they re-sprout when we pick them. Whereas I wouldn't think the radish would, and I'm not certain about the broccoli. So we'll find out soon if they are re-sproutable, and if we can keep reharvesting, or if they're a one-time only thing. So yeah, that's, if there's any questions on microgreens.
Nothing's popping up.
So that's basically it for microgreens. It's super simple. It wasn't expensive. I mean, because I didn't buy the kits. If you buy the kit, it's going to cost you money. But this is obviously all nice and free. So we're going to move on to the sprouts now. And sprouts are even easier. I've been doing sprouts on and off for years. I don't do them regularly, but I really should. So with your sprouts,
can you please do another video later to tell us which ones re-sprout after harvest?
yes, absolutely, sure will. And this is why I wanted it done, you know, a week or so ago, so I could do all this in this video, but not to worry. So with your sprouts, again, you can buy all the equipment, you can buy the specific sprouting seeds, and it's great, or you can just use stuff you've got at home in your cupboard today. Most people have probably got something in their cupboards that they could actually get started today. And sprouts are fantastic because they can be eaten, depending on what stage you like them. Realistically, you can eat them after sort of 4 to 5 days. And yeah, so they're a really fast, really nutritious way of getting some more, especially if you're going to use some legumes. They're a great way of getting more protein in your diet. If you're vegetarian or vegan and you're needing to up that protein level, your sprouts are fantastic because they do have more, because it's obviously what I'm using today is chickpeas. So yeah, they've got that nice high protein in it. So what we've got here is, this is the specific sprout kit that you can buy. Now, I purchased this a long time ago for about $20. It doesn't get used a lot, but it's got a crack in it. I don't remember if it had a lid, but I don't have the lid now, but it still works perfectly fine. It's all set up to just chuck them in and off you go. One of the really good benefits of this one is that it's got 4 layers. So you could realistically do a layer a day and then just keep rotating that and eat your sprouts after 4 days. Eat that, empty it off, give it a clean, refill it, and then you would have a continuous amount of sprouts. I am not that organised, so I've just done it all together. Now again, didn't get this done when I would have liked. I legitimately did these less than 48 hours ago. They're edible now, they're sprouting now. They're not at the stage I would like them to be, but they've absolutely sprouted. And what I've used in here today, I haven't purchased any seed sprouting stuff. I have in the past, and they work fantastic, and you'll get a mixture of I think it's mung beans, alfalfa, adzuki beans, some fenugreek, things like that. They're all fantastic. But you don't have to, again, buy the expensive packet. This is stuff that I was like, oh, what am I going to use? And I grabbed some stuff out of the cupboard. So this top one here is sunflower seeds. So these sunflower seeds, you know, I didn't plant them. I had way too many sunflower seeds. So I've sprouted them. And after less than 48 hours, a lot of them are already sprouting.
Still coming in. Yep.
So yeah, another day or two, and these will be fantastic. I mean, we've had a snack on these this morning, and they're great. The next level down, I've got, these were just chickpeas, and legitimately straight out of a packet. This was something I bought probably a couple of years ago now, and they've just sat in my cupboard all this time. It's really good. These, not only are they an Australian product, but this particular brand here is Ord River, so it's West Australian as well, which for me is super important. I try not to purchase imported food where possible. It's not always possible, especially with these dried beans and legumes and stuff, but this one's West Australian as well, so it was really fantastic. And I just got this at Coles. Whether they still sell this brand or not, I don't know. But all this sort of stuff is just in your soup mix section at the supermarket. So, you know, I've tried to grow chickpeas before in the past, and I've bought little packets of seed stuff, and it's cost me a few dollars to get maybe 10 seeds. Now, if you were to do that, it would cost you a fortune. Whereas this packet, you know, only costs a few dollars. And as you're about to see, they work perfectly fine. So yeah, again, these have been in for less than 48 hours, and I'm not sure if you can see the difference here. They've pretty much doubled in size from when they were dry to now when they're soft. Now these are fully, you can eat these now, they're nice and soft. They need a wash before we eat them, but we have been a bit naughty and have been snacking on them here already. But a lot of them have already started to sprout.
Yep.
And yeah, and that's less than 48 hours. I did this at like, I don't know, maybe 1 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. I have put too many in. I forgot how big I forgot how much they swell up. So this is too much in here, but they were already on their way. So And yeah, with this one, all you do is 2 or 3 times a day, pour some water in, and they've actually got little outlets on them, and it just drips all the way through to the bottom, and then will end up in the reservoir in the bottom, and then you just empty that out. The one thing, the main thing to remember with your sprouts is they must stay moist at all times. If they dry out, they're not going to regrow. The other thing is, like the microgreens, is they need to stay dark. So tea towel, and you just put it over there. It doesn't have to be perfectly dark. I think if you wanted bean shoots, so you know your white bean shoots that you get from the shops, you might want to keep that a bit darker if you wanted them that really white pale colour. But you know, if it doesn't bother you if they're creamy colour. And I mean, these, mind you, in saying that, these are pretty white here, the sunflower seed sprouts. And then the longer we leave them, the more they'll grow, and they'll eventually get your little green leaves on the end like you see in the shops. And I love those crunchy combo packs, but you know, they're not that cheap when you can see how easy it is to grow at home. So yeah, you can absolutely go and buy yourself a fancy kit, and they'll work beautifully. Or, and this is what I used to use before I went fancy schmancy, you can grab the first thing you find in your plastics cupboard. I didn't even look at the plastics cupboard. I legitimately opened the door and picked a container out. And I've done the exact same thing as this, and they actually seem to be a little bit further along, to be honest. In this one, I don't have the different platforms to keep them separated, but I've got chickpeas, I've got sunflower seeds, and I've got some snake beans in here as well. Now, none of the snake beans have germinated yet, but I didn't pre-soak the snake beans either. So they probably are a little bit further behind, but super simple in what you've got. So you'll be able to do this today if you've got excess snake beans lying around, chickpeas, some old sunflower seeds. If you have attempted to grow peas before and they haven't grown and you've still got half a dozen packets sitting in your seed packet, chuck them in and germinate them. So long as they don't have your chemical treatment on the outside, which you'll know if they do because they'll be a different colour, like your corn is usually pink, and at the moment a lot of the beetroot is blue. You don't want to use that. Obviously, if you can get organic, fantastic. If you're going to use your stuff from your own garden at home, then that will be organic if you're not using any chemicals. But this stuff here is all food grade stuff, food grade seed, because we would eat the seed, so it's perfectly fine to use. Now what I've done here is I like to pre-soak. I've done a lot less in this than what I've done with those. I've just put some in a container, and I'm just leaving them soak. They've probably been soaking for the better part of an hour at the moment, which is perfectly fine. And then what you're going to do is you want to drain this water off.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't get them apart.
So yeah, obviously normally you'd be in your kitchen doing this, so to just go into your seed. You don't have to get them, you know, it doesn't have to be dry. You still want, so you don't have to be too pedantic. So I've just got rid of probably 99% of the water on that. Put that in. This is small, so I can double that over. And then what I like to do with the ones at home, okay, I have an elastic, there it is. So the at-home kit, what I do is I put an elastic band around it, and then all I'm going to do is 2 or 3 times a day, or whenever I think about it, I'm not even going to take this off. I'm just going to put some water straight through here, you give it a swirl around, you drain it off like we just did, and that is it. That's how easy it is to do your sprouts. You know, this is an old honey container. Tea towel and a rubber band and some seeds. That's how simple it is. And then after sort of, yeah, 4 to 5 days, I mean we could eat this now. If you just want a nice, soft, crunchy, something to chew on, perfectly fine. And that is pretty much it. This was, yeah, only a short workshop. So if anybody's got any questions, ask them now, please. But yeah, and if you do get some microgreens going or some sprouts, chuck some photos up on the Facebook group. I'd like to see what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Obviously this is learn, and I mean I've done the sprouts on and off for years, so I know that they'll be fine in a couple of days' time. I will do a video or some photos to show you what they're like in a couple of days. But yeah, if you're going to do the microgreens, let us know. Show us some photos. Show us your fails too, because fails are really important, you know, to learn what not to do. You know, obviously I've made a certain amount of mistakes in the last couple of days. I think I've been able to rectify them quite quickly and quite well, but I know what not to do now. So yeah, is there any questions at all? Nothing? Alrighty, well we are going to say goodbye then. Thanks a lot for coming everybody, and we will see you next time.